3 rich men were mean to the waitress. Then the billionaire boss checked the cameras and did something terrible. What if 3 powerful men thought they could ruin a young woman's life in one night, only to find out that justice was watching through every camera in the room? The rain pounded against the windows of Bella Vista, the fanciest restaurant in downtown Chicago, as 24-year-old Lily Chen cleaned tables with shaking hands. Her nursing school textbook sat hidden under the front desk, pages marked with highlighter and hope. She had been working extra shifts for months, saving every penny for her last semester. The fancy dining room buzzed with the quiet conversations of rich customers, crystal glasses softly clinking against fine china. Lily had always found comfort in the restaurant's warm feeling, but tonight felt different. 3 men in expensive suits sat at the corner table, their voices getting louder with each round of drinks. Their laughter had a mean edge that made her stomach twist with worry. She had no idea that in just a few hours her whole world would change forever. "Where are you watching from tonight?" Lily had been working at Bella Vista for 2 years. Ever since her father's construction accident left the family struggling with medical bills. The other workers treated her like family. Chef Antonio always saved her the day's best meal, and Rebecca, the experienced hostess, had become like an older sister. The tips here were good enough to keep her dream of becoming a children's nurse alive, and she was just 8 months away from graduation. The 3 men at table 12 were regulars, though Lily had never served them directly. Jonathan Hayes owned the biggest real estate company in the city, his family's wealth going back generations. Beside him sat Richard Blackwell, a hedge fund manager known for his ruthless business tricks and expensive taste in everything from wine to women. The third man, Bradley Morrison, had inherited his father's drug company and never let anyone forget it. They demanded respect wherever they went, their presence alone enough to make restaurant managers nervous. As the evening went on, their behavior got worse and worse. Lily watched from across the room as they snapped their fingers at servers, complained loudly about made-up problems with their perfectly cooked meals, and made rude comments about the female staff. When Monica, a single mother who had been working there for 5 years, came to their table to refill their wine glasses, Bradley grabbed her wrist tightly. "You're spilling on my $1,000 shirt," he hissed, though not a single drop had fallen. Monica's face went pale as she said sorry over and over, her hands shaking as she backed away from the table. The other servers looked at each other with worry, but nobody dared to step in. These men had the power to get people fired with one phone call to the owner. The evening took a darker turn when the restaurant's owner, Mrs. Chen, no relation to Lily despite the same last name, came to the table personally to handle their complaints. The 3 men leaned back in their chairs with smug satisfaction as they made up detailed stories about bad service and poor food. Mrs. Chen, a dignified woman in her 60s who had built the restaurant from nothing, listened politely before offering to give them their whole meal for free. But that wasn't enough for them. They wanted blood, and they had chosen their target. Their eyes had settled on the young nursing student who reminded them too much of everything they believed themselves better than. The attack began slowly, as hunters often do. When Lily finally came to their table to clear their dessert plates, Jonathan's voice cut through the dining room's gentle atmosphere like a knife. "Well, well, what do we have here?" he said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "The little girl thinks she can handle a real restaurant." Lily's cheeks burned as she kept her professional smile, carefully stacking the plates. "I hope you gentlemen enjoyed your evening," she said softly, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. But they weren't finished with her. Richard leaned forward with hunting interest. "You know, sweetheart, maybe you should find work better suited to your abilities. Perhaps a fast food place would be more your speed." The words hit Lily like real punches, but she continued her work in silence. Years of helping her immigrant parents deal with a sometimes mean world had taught her that dignity was often found in quiet strength. Bradley, encouraged by his friend's cruelty, decided to make things worse. As Lily reached for his coffee cup, he purposely knocked over his water glass, sending ice and liquid pouring across the table and onto her uniform. "Oh, how clumsy of me," he said with fake concern. "But I suppose that's what happens when restaurants hire people who clearly don't belong here." The whole dining room had gone quiet now, other customers uncomfortable witnesses to the embarrassment happening before them. Lily knelt to clean up the mess, her nursing textbook falling from beneath her arm and landing in the puddle. The pages she had studied so carefully, covered with her careful notes about children's care, were now soaked and ruined. That book had cost her nearly a week's worth of groceries, a sacrifice her family had made so she could continue her education. As she looked up from the floor, Lily noticed something she hadn't before. Security cameras were positioned throughout the restaurant, their red lights blinking steadily in the dimmed lighting. She had no idea that at that very moment, someone was watching every second of their cruelty unfold. Someone who had built an empire on the belief that true power meant protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. If this moment touched your heart, please give the video a thumbs up. The three men were about to learn that their actions had consequences they never could have imagined, and that sometimes justice comes from the most unexpected places. The embarrassment continued as Lily cleaned up the purposely spilled water, her hands shaking, not from fear, but from the effort of staying calm. Jonathan Hayes pulled out his phone and began taking pictures of her on her knees, claiming he wanted to record bad service for his online reviews. "Smile for the camera, honey," he teased. "This is going to make quite the story for my social media followers." The other diners looked away in shame, their comfortable evening now ruined by the cruelty they were seeing but felt powerless to stop. Lily thought of her parents who had worked 3 jobs each to give her opportunities they never had. She thought of her little brother, who looked up to her with such pride every time she came home with her nursing books. She thought of the children she dreamed of caring for as a children's nurse, the smiles she hoped to bring to worried families in hospital waiting rooms. These men were trying to steal her dignity, but they couldn't touch her dreams. As she stood up, book pressed against her chest, water still dripping from her uniform, she looked directly at Jonathan Hayes. "I belong here just as much as anyone else," she said quietly, her voice carrying a strength that surprised even her. "And someday I'm going to be a nurse who helps children heal. Nothing you do tonight can change that." The words hung in the air like a challenge, and for a moment something flickered across Bradley's face. Perhaps a memory of his own childhood, when his drug empire father was too busy for his school plays and soccer games. But the moment passed, replaced by renewed cruelty. "A nurse?" Richard laughed harshly. "With an attitude like that, you'll be lucky to find work anywhere in this city. Do you have any idea who we are?" They began making phone calls, speaking loudly about getting her fired, about making sure she would never work in another decent place. Their voices carried across the restaurant like poison, each word designed to crush her spirit completely. Other staff members watched helplessly, knowing their own jobs could be next if they dared to step in. But what none of them knew was that 43-year-old Alexander Romano had been watching from his private dining room upstairs. The billionaire CEO had built his technology empire on a simple belief. Information was power, and power should be used to protect the innocent. Have you ever faced something like this? Let us know in the comments. He had seen enough, and he was about to show these 3 men what real power looked like. Alexander Romano quietly walked down the stairs from his private dining room, his presence commanding immediate attention from the staff who recognized the restaurant's main investor. At 43, he had built Romano Technologies from a small startup into a worldwide empire. But money had never changed his core belief that character was measured by how you treated those with less power than yourself. His own journey from a working-class neighborhood to billionaire status had taught him that respect was earned, not bought. He came to the 3 men with calm authority, his expensive suit and confident manner immediately recognizing him as someone of equal or greater status. "Gentlemen," he said smoothly, extending his hand in greeting. "Alexander Romano, I don't believe we've met." Jonathan, Richard, and Bradley straightened in their chairs, suddenly eager to make a good impression on someone they correctly guessed was wealthy and powerful. They had no idea they were shaking hands with their own downfall. "Please join me for a drink," Alexander continued, his voice warm and welcoming. "I've been watching your evening unfold, and I'm quite impressed by your boldness." The 3 men glowed under what they mistook for praise, launching into boastful stories about their business successes and social connections. Alexander listened with apparent fascination, occasionally asking questions that made them reveal more about their true characters. He was building a case, gathering evidence with the precision of a lawyer preparing for trial. After 30 minutes of conversation, Alexander's manner subtly shifted. His smile became less warm, more calculating. "You know, gentlemen, I have something I'd like to show you. My security team has installed some fascinating new camera technology throughout this place. The video quality is quite remarkable. You can see every detail, hear every word." The 3 men began to look uncomfortable, sensing a trap but unable to identify its exact nature. Alexander pulled out his tablet and began playing footage from earlier in the evening. There they were in crystal-clear high definition, humiliating Lily with purposeful cruelty. Their voices were perfectly audible as they made their threats about destroying her career, their faces clearly visible as they laughed at her ruined textbook. "Remarkable clarity, don't you think?" Alexander asked conversationally. "My AI systems have already put together a complete timeline of events cross-referenced with facial recognition and audio analysis. The blood drained from their faces as they realized they had been caught. If you've been enjoying this story, subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. But Alexander wasn't finished with them yet. He was about to show them that when you attack the innocent, sometimes the universe sends someone to balance the scales. Alexander Romano's next words would forever change the path of all their lives. Gentlemen, I want you to understand something about power. Real power isn't the ability to embarrass a young woman working her way through nursing school. Real power is having the resources to make sure that actions have consequences. He tapped his tablet screen and suddenly their phones began buzzing at the same time. Text messages, emails, and social media notifications flooded their devices as the video footage spread to every major news outlet and social platform in the city. You see, Alexander continued calmly, I have quite a large social media following. Several million people, actually. They tend to find stories like this very interesting. Within minutes, Bella Vista Justice was trending, and the three men's professional reputations were crumbling in real time. Alexander had carefully edited the footage to protect Lily's identity, while clearly showing their faces and voices. Their business partners, clients, and board members were already calling for explanations. But the real surprise came when Alexander called Lily over to their table. She came hesitantly, still holding her damaged textbook. Lily, he said gently, I've been watching you work for months during my visits here. Your kindness toward every customer, your dedication despite obvious challenges, your grace under pressure. These are qualities that can't be taught. He handed her an envelope that would cover not just her remaining nursing school tuition, but a full scholarship to the children's nursing program at Northwestern University. The three men sat in stunned silence as their world collapsed around them. Jonathan's real estate empire lost 3 major contracts before midnight. Richard's hedge fund clients began taking out their investments the next morning. Bradley's drug company's stock price dropped as footage of his cruelty played on every major news network. But Alexander wasn't done yet. He started the Lily Chen Foundation that very week, creating nursing scholarships for students from working families. He hired Lily as a paid intern at Romano Technology's healthcare division, allowing her to gain experience while finishing her studies. The restaurant became a symbol of dignity and respect, with servers from across the city applying to work in an environment that protected its employees. Months later, Lily graduated with highest honors and accepted a position at Children's Memorial Hospital. She kept Alexander's business card in her nursing bag, a reminder that sometimes guardian angels wear expensive suits and carry tablets full of justice. The three men had taught her an invaluable lesson, that her dignity was hers to keep, regardless of others' attempts to steal it. The story spread far beyond Chicago, becoming a reminder that in an age of constant surveillance and social media, character matters more than ever. Sometimes the most horrible thing you can do to bullies is simply show the world who they really are. If you enjoyed this story, please remember to like, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more heartwarming tales. Thank you for joining us on this journey of justice and hope.